The reason why there are two different body styles of Savior rod floats is so that the transition from your existing rod blank to the Savior is smooth. At the base of the Savior full handle body, our outer diameter is 1.1 inch, and that makes it made up really well to these 1 inch cork or EVA full handle. So just do a little bit of measuring to see what your handle outer diameter is. If you do have a tapered handle, check out our tapered handle split grip install, and that may work for you if you don't like the transition on this. So the first step is to just find the end of the rod blank. We want to find out exactly where the end of the rod blank itself is underneath all that handle material. Some of this can be a hard rubber end. Some of it's some pretty tough rubber on the end of the rods, but just finding the end of the rod blank is what we're looking for. The reason why we find the end of that rod blank is so we can measure from it. If you leave all that handle material, if you leave all that handle material on, you don't know exactly what to be measuring from. Some of that stuff can be, a quarter of an inch thick. You just got to find the end of that rod handle and make measurements from the end of the rod handle an inch and 3/8 in. So as you can see, what I'm doing is I've got it sitting flat on a table. I can roll it, keep the measuring tape out, and measure an inch and 3/8, 3 or 4 times around the outside of that handle is all you need. This is the most important step in installing a Savior full handle because you want to protect the handle material that you're wanting to keep. And the best way to do that is to just wrap some masking tape and connect the marks at an inch and 3/8 around the circumference of the rod blank that you're going to keep. Applying the tape, make sure that it's straight and make sure that it's tight. You want to make sure that this tape is on here good and straight. After I apply the tape, I roll the rod in my hands. This line is your reveal from the handle to the Savior. Now all you have to do is remove the handle material from the tape to the back of the rod. And this could be EVA foam or cork, doesn't matter. Not a lot of full handles like this with carbon fiber or anything like that, but this is a pretty simple step. But what the tape is doing as you grab the handle material with pliers, the tape is protecting the cork or EVA that you want to keep. If you didn't have that on there, you have a good possibility of ripping chunks out of the material you want to keep, and you have to re epoxy that. So the tape is the most important thing. So removing the material is easy, just a sharp razor blade, a good cut around the circumference, and then some cuts out the back, and it'll just come right off. So. This is just a reminder, if your rod blank is plugged when you remove the handle material, use a 3/16 drill bit and just drill. It's probably going to be epoxy. Just drill the epoxy out and to clear room for the center screw of the Savior. So now as we go to dry fit the Savior full handle, you can see that we've got a bunch of wobble in it. And it's common practice to use masking tape, pretty common material, to take up space in fishing rods. And there was some on this rod. I don't think it was shown in the video, but it's just a common way to take up circumference space on a fishing rod between handles, reel seats. And use the cheapest white masking tape you can find. The colored masking tapes have waxes on them, great for painting, not for this application. And what I'm doing with the utility knife here is I'm cutting about the first third of the width of the masking tape off, just so I can get a little bit better bond to the rod. Okay, now that you have your dry fit where you want it, everything looks good, it's time to epoxy and it's time to attach your savior to your fishing rod. I'm not going to use the two-part epoxy that I usually send in the packaging on this one because I'm running low on them. But just to show you, any fast drying or quick setting epoxy will work on this. This is a JB Weld. This is what I always use on everything. It's uh, it's a great epoxy. It cleans up really well. So, but just mix the two-part epoxy and mix them together. Mix them well. After your epoxy is mixed, just apply it to the end of the rod where you prep to put the savior on, um, and and apply a heavy dose of it. You can use a lot of it. You want it to push. You want the epoxy to push up as you're spinning the savior on. As you're putting the savior on, you want to be turning it and spreading that epoxy as you turn it. Remember to align your savior logo on the same side as the reel. So this is a spinning reel, and as I'm looking at the rod, if I'm holding the rod in my hand, I can't see the logo. Okay, so it's time to clean up this epoxy mess that we have. Get two separate pieces of napkins. You're going to use one for dry, one for wet. The first one, I'm just going to take the dry and I'm going to clean off any excess epoxy that's around the outside. And this is all happening right after we epoxied and right after we put it on. So this is happening quick. Uh, Take the dry, clean it off, and then you can remove the tape and then switch over to your other napkin and use just regular rubbing alcohol that you can buy off any store shelf. And I dump some, I use quite a bit of it and dump it on the other napkin that you have. Rubbing alcohol will remove wet epoxy. So as long as it's still a little bit tacky, a little bit wet, the rubbing alcohol will take it right off. Look fantastic after you get done with it. Make sure your logo's aligned and you're all done. And you can remove little bits of tape uh, with your utility knife. Really easy to do. And then stand this rod up straight for a few hours and it's done.